So at the end of every interview style episode on When You Look, we ask guests two questions. The first of which is, was it coincidence or God? And the second of which is, how has your life changed as a result of everything that's just occurred? In episode 12 that released on July 28th, 2025 regarding Cory's heart attack survival, I answered the former because I was directly involved in that situation, but I didn't answer the latter. And this video is ultimately answering the latter. How has my life changed as a result of everything that happened with the Cory Eubanks heart attack survival story from episode 12? Cory is in a road cycling race in the mountains of Helen, Georgia in April of 2021. And shortly after the event starts, he has an issue, and that issue turns out to be a heart attack, full-blown cardiac arrest. Now, a group of cyclists, one of which was with him as this all began to unfold, immediately come to his aid, including doing chest compressions on him, basically right as he stopped breathing. The paramedics get on scene 8 minutes after the 911 call goes out, and as they explain, that ultimately was far faster of a response time than usual.
And if you know anything about our county, we're super busy all the time with limited resources. And so truthfully, the fact that there was an ambulance available when y'all called within 10 minutes is a miracle in itself, truthfully, because 9 times out of 10, you would call and we wouldn't even be available. You would have gotten an ambulance 30 minutes down the road.
Halfway to the hospital, Cory is shocked one last time and regains a pulse.
It's a little past our halfway point to the hospital. We gave Cory one last shock. Cory got a pulse back with that shock, and his eyes fluttered. And in that moment, I knew that something happened that was more than what we could just do. There was life that was being brought back into him.
So he goes 38 minutes without a heartbeat and then ends up having an absolutely incredible complete recovery inside of 3 weeks.
I would say 2 to 3 weeks after that incident occurring, I think I was pretty well back to maybe where I was before. So I didn't have any long-lasting mental problems or anything, which is really shocking.
He goes back the following year, 2022, to the same exact event and wins the race for his age category.
So I did the race and came in first place in my age group that year. And then 2023, I went back again and I came in third place in my age group. And then last year, I went back and got first place in my age group again.
So it was very, very clear that his 2022 results were not a fluke, as he's continued to have outstanding results post heart attack. So here was my role in the whole thing. As I was on my way to the course martial and on my way back, I was praying. And when I got back to the scene, I got off of my bike and I remember being approximately 15 feet behind the ambulance. And I got on my knees in the middle of the road and I was praying specifically for God's glory to be revealed. And I was asking him to bring this man back to life. Now, I have no idea who this person is. Well, this whole time I'm praying and I was praying out loud, which wasn't exactly a normal thing for me to do. But I was praying that God would literally bring him back to life. And when they loaded the dead body into the ambulance, at that point, it was like it was over. So now back to the question, how has my life changed as a result of the Cory Eubanks story? Well, number one, it became very clear to me that what I meant when I prayed wasn't exactly what God had in mind. And then number two is that it's God's timing, not mine, because he's God. So here's what I mean. Going into this long weekend, my wife and I were praying that my behavior would be a witness. And in particular, that it would be a witness to the group of people that I was with, because it's me and a bunch of my buddies that were in a house that we had rented there in Helen for this event. So as I'm praying these prayers about having my behavior be a witness, I'm thinking mostly along the lines of Evan and Matt. Since I'm in my 40s, they're in their late 20s. I'm just like barely know them, just trying to be a good dude, you know what I mean? And that maybe, just maybe, in some way, shape, or form, my behavior ultimately serves as a witness. Then what ends up happening is I'm literally at the back of an ambulance praying for Cory out loud on my knees. So it was crazy that this is all going down. And I want to be really clear that as this is all going down, I have no understanding or connection in my mind about any of the stuff that I have previously prayed about. This only became evident sort of afterwards. That, man, wow, I was praying that my behavior would be a witness. And then I'm put in this situation that is so far beyond what I ever anticipated. And I think that's really where point number one for me comes in. It became super clear to me that God's plan relative to what I was praying was totally or massively different. And it was said to me just recently, actually, what I think is a great line. And that is, if you want to make God laugh, come up with a plan. So point number one came really clear to me that what I meant when I prayed isn't what God wanted. So point number two, it's God's timing, not mine, because he's God. So I said in the video that after they loaded Cory into the ambulance, it was all, from my perspective, done. So here's the deal. I am disappointed when they take a dead man away in the ambulance. And I thought to myself, God had the opportunity to raise him from the dead, and he didn't. And yet, not that many minutes later, after they've closed the doors on the ambulance and they're now halfway to the hospital, God literally does bring him back from the dead. And so the lesson for me in this was, it is not my timing, because I'm not God. He's God. It's his timing, period, because he's God. So my disappointment ultimately turned to joy, but I was disappointed because of my expectation for timing. And what I've been able to reflect upon is that there have been major things in my life that seemed rough, bad, awful. And God eventually delivered or redeemed them in his timing, not in mine. And I'll speak about that, the lot more detail about some of those scenarios, including one major one, in a future episode. Big things for me in this. Became very clear that what I meant when I prayed isn't what God had in mind. And I'm okay with that because he is God. And then because he is God, it's his timing, not mine. He had every right to have Cory still be dead and every right to raise Cory from the dead. And he could have chosen for Cory to be alive and brain dead, or alive and diminished in some capacity, because Cory goes a minimum of 38 minutes without a heartbeat. And God decides, I'm going to give him full recovery. I praise God in this whole entire thing because his glory was revealed. There is no doubt in my mind and in my heart, and it's totally fine that others believe differently, but there is zero doubt in my mind that God answered my prayer. His glory literally was revealed through bringing Cory quite literally back to life. in the end, this comes down to, for me, the lesson that he's God no matter what. And he gets to decide. And I'm grateful to be his son. Make sure that you get some additional context for everything that we've been talking about here by watching the full episode 12. It is absolutely mind-bending. You've gotten a recap from everything that we've talked about here, and you've seen some of the clips, but there's so much more in this, so much more, especially the super funny story at the end. I mean, Cory shares so much, the paramedics share so much, all of the guys that were involved in this share so much. You've got to check out episode 12. So we'll link that in the description below. Make sure you grab that and all of the other awesome stories here on When You Look. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on a future episode. Lots more amazing and cool stuff coming in terms of interviews and some additional content. So stay tuned.